Hey gamers, it's G from the corner, and today we're going to be checking out the recently released Wario Ware Move It. Now, I'm going to be real, when this game was announced back in June of 2023, I was shocked. I mean, we just got Wario Ware Get It Together not even 2 years ago, and already we're getting another brand new WarioWare game on the Switch. You know, I'm surprised we're getting another WarioWare on Switch, but we've gotten multiple WarioWares per system before. The DS had two WarioWares, and both were very, very different. And the same thing seems to have happened here. Get It Together had this sort of platformer gimmick where you could control the different WarioWare characters and they all had different moves, and that'd be how you'd play the microgames. But now in WarioWare Move It, we're back to a more traditional setup, and it utilizes the Joy-Cons motion controls, which is something very expected. I think a lot of people, if they thought we would get a WarioWare on Switch in the first place, were predicting something like that. Now, personally, I really liked WarioWare Get It Together. So when this game was announced, I was like, oh, cool, but, you know, I feel like this isn't going to top the one that I already have. But it's a new WarioWare. I love WarioWare. Still going to check it out, of course. Going to want to do a review on it anyway, so no matter what, I was going to be playing it. But, you know, sure, why not? Another WarioWare. But then we get to a few days before release, and I feel like I'm going on Twitter and everybody is just dogging on this game. Like, oh, why aren't they making another WarioWare game? Oh, the motion controls don't work. Oh, it's not going to sell well. They need to stop making these WarioWares. This should be the last WarioWare. Like, oh my god, guys, what did WarioWare do to you all? I know there's been 3 of them in the last 5 years, but, you know, that's what the series used to be like. They took a big hiatus during the Wii U era. Game & Wario wasn't even a WarioWare game, so really, there was a nice 8-year gap between WarioWare games, and then we got Gold on 3DS, Get It Together on Switch, and now Move It on Switch. You know, this happens all the time where a Nintendo franchise is around and people don't really care. People are like, oh, they're making too many of them, why even bother? And then it goes away and people are like, oh, where's this series? Why don't they make another one of these games? And, you know, maybe that'll happen to WarioWare. Maybe we won't get another one for a while. I know a lot of this also comes from people wanting a new Wario Land game. I would love a new Wario Land too. I mean, obviously we've gotten 3 WarioWares in the last 5 years, and we haven't gotten a Wario Land since the Wii. There's a few references to Wario Land in this game, though. I think one of the characters actually shows up during, like, one of the in-between segments of the microgames for characters. That's really cool. But despite all of the nitpicking I was hearing online leading up to the game's release, I actually really like this game. Let's get into that. Right off the bat, one of the things that Move It does that I think is really fun is they have a connective tissue to all the microgames. Usually the plot is just Wario's making a new game with his friends. Get It Together had a plot where they got sucked into the game, but this time there's a plot completely unrelated to that. Wario just wins a sweepstakes and they go on a tropical vacation. So everybody is doing stuff while on vacation. Most of the characters are wearing new get-ups. It's a cute little thematic tissue, honestly. I really like it. I think there's some cute cutscenes in between the microgames that are fully voiced again, just like in WarioWare Gold. Get It Together had these cutscenes, but they were just like partially voiced. Now we're back to full voice acting, which, you know, great and exciting. However, this is the first game without Charles Martinet playing the mustache-twirling Wario himself. Instead, we have Kevin Afghani, who played the brothers in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which just released a few weeks ago. Now, his voice in Wonder, I thought was actually pretty great. I thought both characters he played, he did a good job at. But I was surprised to see they're still going to have one guy play all of the mustachioed men. I'm curious how his Waluigi's going to sound. But for now, we have his Wario, which, it's more of his own take than just a straight copy of Charles Martinet's Wario. It's not like he's doing an impression of it. He's doing his own sort of version of it. I mean, you're never gonna get me to stop quoting his quotes from Gold, his screams from Wario World on the GameCube. But Afghani, I feel like, you know, give him a few more games, give him more dialogue. Because Wario in this game actually doesn't talk a lot. And I feel like that was intentional. There were some trailers leading up to the game's release where he did talk, and, you know, in my opinion, sounded really off. So I guess I could see why they were just like, okay, he gets a few lines in the opening, a few lines in the ending. That's it. Everybody else can talk a lot more. Yeah, sure, cool. But yeah, okay, let's just get into the gameplay. Obviously, you know, it's WarioWare. WarioWare, you pick a character, pick a mode, and then you're tasked with playing a bunch of microgames that proceedingly get faster and more difficult, seeing how long you can last. You know, the usual stuff with WarioWare. This time, it's with motion controls. So similarly to the Wii game Smooth Moves, before a microgame starts, you'll be shown a pose, and that pose is called a form. You have to basically do the microgame in that form. It kind of gives you a sort of baseline start from this, and then, you know, maneuver your body based on how you think you'll be able to do the micro game. It took a bit of getting used to at first. I actually haven't played that much of Smooth Moves. I didn't really like it that much, honestly. The motion controls were a bit complex for me. But, you know, playing this game, I also kind of felt the same way at first. I was like thinking I'm screwing this up. Oh, the motion controls aren't working, yada yada. But then after a little while, I got really into it. I don't know if the lineup of micro games just gets better as you go down. But I really enjoyed it by the end, especially when it got time to check the game's multiplayer out, which there is a lot of multiplayer here. There's plenty of modes. You can play the entire game in co-op. Not like Get It Together where you could play every micro game alongside another player. Instead, it'll be a tag in, tag out system, which, you know, you'd think wouldn't be that fun, but actually kind of works considering how frantic and fast Wario Ware is. You're never really going to be out of the game for more than like 10 seconds. And then there are even some micro games where players have to work together. Certain players will be doing different forms, and it works so well, honestly, but that's not even the beginning of it. So there's a few two-player modes. You could do like a standard, like, oh, I'm gonna fight against this guy, and then, you know, whoever wins the micro game gets a point or takes another point from the other player, yada yada. There's a mode where one player plays a micro game while the screen is blocked, and the other player has to do some crazy motion controls to try and open up the screen. That one got really hectic. There's, oh my god, this has got to be the most creative mode I've seen in a game like this in a while. Copycat mirror. One player looks at the TV screen, no controller. The other player looks at that player, not the TV screen, with controller. And the one player without the controller has to do the movements, and the player with the controller has to copy them. It's ridiculous. And there's even more multiplayer modes in 4-player, which, you know, they only make you use one Joy-Con instead of 2 for the 4-player modes, but they're all good fun. That's the thing with this one. I think this is a much more party-focused WarioWare game than Get It Together. Because with Get It Together, that's a game where if I'm on Switch and I just want to play a quick single-player WarioWare game, I'll usually boot that one up, or the Game Boy Advance one that's on NSO. Funnily enough, I still really like that game. Weird compared to all the other ones to be like, yeah, the Game Boy Advance first one, that's still great to me, just the simplicity of it, but whatever. So, you know, that's an easier game to play in single player, but with this one, it's like, do I really want to just like get the Joy-Con set up, put in the wrist straps, put in all that, you know, get moving like I'm gonna do a fitness workout just to play some WarioWare like that? Not really. It's a very good game in a party setting, and obviously that's why they put in all these party modes comparatively to Get It Together, which I think had a few less party modes, but you can still play the whole game in co-op. So really, it works on its own. I personally like Get It Together more. I don't know if you can tell at this point. That's the one I'm going to be going back to more often. But Move It is still phenomenal in its own right. And, you know, when you got the right people around, it's a great game. Both actually have a high barrier of entry, in my opinion. Get It Together, you have to understand how the game works and how all these characters work, and that there's these rings that the characters who can't jump can hook onto if they need to get extra distance. But with Move It, you have to understand that when the game tells you to do a form, you have to do that form, and then like some of the micro games can be a bit obtuse. Like there's a few where it's like, hey, do a pulling motion or something, and I would do it, and I'm like, why isn't it working? What the heck? There was one where you like have to flip the Joy-Cons around. That you like, they make you do crazy stuff. One of the poses is like you put the Joy-Cons down on a table or the ground, and you have to literally flip them over or pick them up to get them to get moving. Like it's ridiculous, but you know, it's a ton of fun, honestly. That's the thing. The game's fun, you know? The game is fun, so bother, right? And it's not a full price game as well. It's only, what, 64 Canadian, 50 American, you know? All right price. It's not full price. Good to see that they kept that going with the WarioWares on Switch. And like Get It Together, this is still in the higher tier of Nintendo's party game offerings on Switch. You know, there's not really a lot of good ones, so this one does still stick out as a good one from them if you would like one. Crazy again that we've gotten 2 WarioWares on Switch anyway, but you know, this one has its place, and I think if you've played Get It Together, if you're craving something more party oriented, I would definitely recommend giving this game a purchase. Really fun and really creative use of the gimmicks on Switch. Great multiplayer. Good recommendation. It's not the best game I've played this year, but it's a very good recommendation. But yeah, that is going to wrap things up for this review on The Corner. Keep yourselves cornered, like and subscribe, and comment down below anything you disagree with here, because, you know, everybody likes doing that now, so please feel free, send the hate my way if I'm being too harsh on this game, genuinely. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.